Alright, I want to hit you guys with some wrestling content here. I want to talk about how WCW fumbled Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, I found this article here, and it was talking about that situation, because what brought also light to it was when Jake Roberts talked about the other day about him butting heads with Bill Watts. They wouldn't even let him use his snake. Because if you notice, you rarely see Jake even use his snake or bring his snake out during his stint. So that probably played a key role into why things didn't work out. But I found this article here, and it says here, in 1992, the WWF was entered into a transitional period. Vince McMahon was a year away from being indicted on steroid distribution charges, and one of his closest allies, Pat Patterson, was fired after he was accused of sexual harassment by another WWE employee. Now, before the WWE hired TV and film writers to write storylines for the company, many of the angles, gimmicks, and concepts came from the mind of Patterson. Not only did he book for McMahon, he also played a role in talent relations and signing new wrestlers to the promotion. So, with Patterson's release from the company, there was a huge void that needed to be filled. Enter Jake Roberts. Now here, Jake Roberts was a wrestler, was close to 20 years by the time, was starting to slow down. He was preparing for retirement for a few reasons. First, Jake was suffering from several injuries that were debilitating him in the ring. Secondly, all the years spent on the road was damaging his marriage, and Jake wanted more time at home to save his marriage to Cheryl. And what seemed to be a perfect storm of circumstances, Vince promised Pat Patterson's spot in the company to Jake Roberts. He would become head booker, managing talent, and create storylines for the WWF. Before Patterson was fired, Jake was already right for the WWF, so the transition seemed to be seamless. Only if it wasn't. After being promised the position on numerous occasions, it never came to fruition. Finally, Jake approached Vince and asked what happened. According to Jake, Vince had a change of heart and decided not to fill the position. Pat Patterson would later be rehired after the allegations charges were dropped. Feeling betrayed by Vince and the WWF, Jake demanded a release from the company. He made Vince's life a living hell for a brief period of time, and even threatened to no-show it for a scheduled WrestleMania 8 match with The Undertaker if he wasn't given his release right after the match. It seemed crazy for Jake to burn bridges with the might WWE, but as the old saying goes, never trust a snake. Jake already had a lucrative deal on the table with WCW. His father, Grizzly Smith, was on the booking committee for WCW, and Ted Turner, who was looking to compete with Vince McMahon. So, he was ready to spare no expense by taking away one of Vince's proven talent. Kip Fry, who was in charge of WCW at the time, allegedly offered Jake a multi-million-dollar contract. It was believed to be in the range of $700,000 per year. That's when this fairy tale crashed and burned, because a typical WCW fashion at the time, Kip Fry stepped down from his position, and Cowboy Bill Watts was replaced to hire him. The problem with this was the fact that there was legitimate heat between Jake Roberts and Watts that spanned back to Jake's days in working in Bill Watts' Mid-South territory. The two were both outspoken, brash personalities that were afraid to call BS when it was BS. That didn't mesh well with either, and there were years of personal animosity. So when Bill Watts saw the contract that was offered to Jake, Watts allegedly ripped it in pieces and offered Jake a new contract worth less than half of what was originally worth. Unfortunately for Jake, at that time, he was not in a position to negotiate due to the antics of the WWF. Bill Watts knew this and got Jake to agree to a new lowball contract. Regardless of how Watts felt about Jake Roberts personally, no doubt professionally, he was an asset. When Jake was on his game, there was no one better on mic skills and ring psychology. On August 2nd, 1992, Baltimore, Maryland, Jake made his WCW debut by attacking WCW's top star Sting. This led because Jake Roberts' debut was effective because it was an established name and was because he was just that damn good. He began a series of promos that only Jake could master to why he was in WCW and why he was targeting Sting. It all led to the one-on-one encounter in the 1992 Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. Jake would challenge Sting to a spin the wheel, make the deal type match. Essentially, it was the wheel that had numerous gimmick matches like a barbed wire match, a steel cage match, a first blood match. And the night of their match, the wheel fell on a coal miner's glove match. The object of such a match was loaded glove would be placed high on a pole. Typical WCW shit. The person to first reach the top of the pole will legally use the glove. The match was awkward and not coordinated because nobody, not the wrestlers, the bookers, or the referee, knew where the wheel might land. But check this. The pay-per-view still did numbers. It drew because Jake the Snake Roberts was a draw. But see, at that time, you don't know what you have until it's gone. They didn't know at the time to let business and let bygones be bygones. And they let Jake go afterwards. Because I remember that. I remember that angle. I was like, damn, they brought Jake the Snake Roberts. This is going to be good. And then after the Sting feud, that was it. That was it right there. And you taking away him not using the snake? That's the gimmick. Like, are you serious right now? But that's exactly what happened with Jake Roberts, man. They fumbled the ball with him. They could have done many different storylines with him. He could have did stuff with Vader. He could have did stuff with Cactus Jack. Man, the talent pool was crazy at the time. He could have did an angle with Steamboat. Come on, man. But let me know what you guys think, man. Subscribe, hit the like button. Peace.